a big long ditch there, and a bunch of 55-gallon barrels, and I saw the one 55-gallon barrel fly up through the air about 50 yards or so through the air. And Gary says, Dad, let's get out of here. It's back here again. And boy, we did. We were gone. And nothing flat. I didn't look that way. I didn't do anything. I left.
It's amazing. It must be, God's power or something. I mean, how can they be so powerful?
I don't know that. If they're Nephilim, that's pretty easy, but if that's what they are. And I thought that a long time ago. Now, if you look on the internet, are Bigfoot Nephilim, they'll say, yeah, they are. And through that, and they are very powerful, extremely powerful, beyond supernaturally powerful. But anyway,
I wasn't aware of the, transcending, but yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, I just walked around tonight outside. We have mountain lions, here, so we don't have Sasquatch here in Emerald Hills, but we have coyotes, The other morning I went out, my wife still likes to get the regular physical newspaper, right? She's darling. She's flying back from Nicaragua tonight. I love her tremendously. Under God, forever, right? She'll call me at 4:20 this morning from El Salvador, and they'll transfer her and pass her through. So she's coming up. But we walk around a lot here together, and never saw a mountain lion, but you know when they're looking at you. You know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, it's like the birds disappear. It gets completely quiet. It's kind of spooky, right? So the other story, the other morning I went out there to pick up the paper for her, Mary, my lovely bride Mary. I went out there. I get up early, right? Like about 4:30. I went out there, and there's two sibling coyotes, and they turned their heads in unison and looked at me. So I picked up that paper, and they went like this. What are you guys doing? I love them. I don't want to shoot them. I have firearms. But and they just hightailed it. So you just tell them, come on, let's go. You know what I'm talking about. N6AF.
Yeah. Well, we have coyotes and wolves and lions and bear and a little bit of all that other stuff here. My wife went down around the creek. Within a year or two after we came here, and there's a big lion walking around through there, and the lion left a track big as a horse. And she got back up there and she said, don't you go down there without taking a gun anymore. There's there's lion track down there. Well, anyway, later on, a couple of years ago now, a lion came down, pretty big lion, and he killed my neighbor's dog in my yard. And I always told these guys, I said, if you're going to go out and take a shotgun, don't take a pistol or a rifle. I said, you won't miss with a shotgun, I don't think. Anyway, he went out there with his pistol, and the dog was eating, or the lion was eating his dog on his back porch. He still got the dog up there and was eating it. Anyway, he went out there and shot at it, missed it, and he got away. They finally got him. He was about 190 pounds. He was a big Tom. And they killed one 12 miles from me just a few days ago that had killed 12 goats down there. And, of course, the coyotes come in and they kill the sheep when they're here, and the goats and whatever else, and lions every now, or not lions, but the bear will get down out of the mountains and start messing things up and killing things. And the wolves, we got a few wolves around here. Anyway, you'll almost see anything up in this country. I like to see that. This year I have not seen one antelope. I don't know what in the world happened to our antelope. I didn't see an antelope this year or a bighorn sheep, either one. I got wild horses in my yard just almost every day. And 7 IU.
Yeah, I'll back off. I got a couple more wild animal stories, but yeah, I'm sure I kind of bailed you up to the bar. So go ahead, your buddy there. I'll listen. I'm all ears. N6AF.
See you later there.
Yeah, Jim, they have so many mountain lions in Utah right now that they've taken them off of the protected species list, and so they're varmints like coyotes. You can shoot them anytime, anywhere, with anything.
Well, look, over here, we got so many lions over here, we don't have any more deer.
Well, that's exactly what's happening around here, too. The deer are getting decimated, so are the elk.
Yeah, they have just about wiped out. They may have wiped out all the antelope, I don't know. Because I haven't seen an antelope, haven't seen a bighorn sheep. And I mean, I have seen 1,000 bighorn sheep in one day. Just every which way you look up here about 11 miles east of me, up there in the mountains. But they're also fooling around with that lithium mine up there, too. So that might be chasing them off, too. But I have found scat with, the hair, bighorn sheep hair in it, the wool, or whatever you want to call it. But up here, I mean, I went deer hunting this year. I had 2 deer tags. Didn't even see a deer. Anyway, not a legal one anyway. But I went up there and I saw lion tracks everywhere. Some wolf tracks, coyote tracks, but hardly any deer tracks at all. I mean, I'm trying to get into this one place up here because I knew there were deer there. And I did find a deer, but it was the last day or two of the season, and they were just real wily. Anyway, they've just about wiped out all our deer herds and everything up here, and I hope they didn't wipe out the antelope too.
Well, they haven't wiped them out. We still have some around here, but not as many, that's for sure.
Can I tell Sarah a quick mountain lion story?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I was working with the ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, for about 18 months on contract. It's always on contract, one of my clients. And I was talking to one of my buddies. He's a mountaineer, and he described, I'm not sure if it was Dave Hayden. You can look it up, Hayden. Very religious man, by the way, so you would like him. Or his buddy. So it's in December, and you can't even snowcat to get to the peak where the microwave radio station is. That's my line of work. So the guy had to hike up there. So he walked up there to the microwave radio station and finished his work up there, and then walking back down, you step in your own boot tracks, right? So guess what he saw in the middle of every boot track? You got it, man. Gorgeous lion tracks. That cat followed him all the way up and then hung out. And but he disappeared, I guess he decided, I guess the guy was too big to be attacked. They don't want to get hurt, right? But kind of spooky. Think about it. You're walking back down and you're looking in your boot tracks, and there's these puma prints in every step. Over?
We did that here on Cottonwood Creek about 15, 18 years ago or something like that. We went up there and we were camping on Cottonwood Creek down the south end of this valley. And I had been swimming with Dakota. Dakota and I built a swimming pool, and Dakota was still down there, and Marilyn wanted to walk up the road, and I was in my swimming trunks and just a T-shirt on, and I was still wet. And anyway, I walked up there. I had my shoes on, and she wanted to go look at these dugouts up there. Well, we walked up to the dugout. I kept smelling a lion. I said, I smell a lion. And she said, you have your gun? I said, no. I said, my pants are wet and my gun's back there. Well, she said, we want one up there, and then she didn't want to go any further. She said, I'm tired. I can't go any further. So we turn around, and here the lion is trailing us in our tracks. And I said, there's where the lion I was smelling was like that. She said, let's get out of here. She was supercharged down that mountain, down that road. She was moving on. She wasn't tired anymore at all. And she got on me. She said, don't you ever go any place without that gun in your pocket anymore. You always have a gun in your pocket. Don't you dare. We didn't have a rock or a stick or anything. Well, I said I'd have figured out something. Anyway, you know I tagged the last lion in the state of California, didn't you?
I didn't explain that one.
I tagged the last lion before the moratorium in the state of California.
Really?
The last one, the last few minutes of the last day, morning, actually, it quit at 12 o'clock, and I think the game warden certified my tag at 11:55, something like that.
So, was that roughly 155 pounds? How big was it?
She was only 85 pounds. She was a female, and then I killed one after that because it was necessary. He had killed horses. He killed my friend's quarter horse, and he killed a bunch of his cattle and everything, and we got him. He was way over 200 pounds, 11 foot long. He was a monster. I got a picture of him that was on the website a long time ago, but they took pictures down. You saw that one, didn't you, Wayne?
Yeah, I saw that mountain lion, yeah.
He was a monster, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty long.
His head looked like an African lion, female, not a male, but a female. He was that big.
Yeah, I've had them when I used to hunt elk, I had them doggone mountain lions follow my track.
Oh, yeah, they hunt you. The lion will hunt you.
Yeah. And we had one go through our cattle and just scattered them everywhere, and they cut up quite a few cows when they went through the fence, and that mountain lion went down to my neighbor's. This gal was raising horses, and he tore the guts out of two colts and ate them.
The park was opening up, and those warnings, the signs, they warn you, don't hike alone, and make noise and so forth. So I said, I think it'll be okay. Mary, let's go. My wife's named Mary, gorgeous lady. So we start walking up there, but you know what? Same thing that happened here in Woodside. I'm not making it up, man. You know when you're being watched, right? I mean, maybe it's because we're hunters, but whatever the reason, I was aware, and she said, we got to get the heck out of here, right? So we rapidly walked down the trail, and we got out of there back by the geyser there, So the next day, we flew out, right? We weren't, scared. It was just part of our itinerary, okay? But the next day, a ranger got eaten by a grizzly bear. You know what? I smelled him, and my wife smelled him. And that bear killed a ranger the day after we flew out. Now, this is scary stuff. Do you agree?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You are prey. I don't go in the woods without a pistol or a rifle or something. I've always got something with me anymore. I mean, that time I went up there, I didn't have my pants on, regular pants. I had my swimming trunks on, and they were wet because I just got out. She wanted to go up there, and so I didn't do that, but I don't go. But that was really, there's a road there and all of that. But I got to smelling that lion. I don't know whether you can smell a lion, but I can smell a lion. I smell a rattlesnake. But, and a bear, whatever, they stink. I did not smell that Bigfoot at all. I think all of my senses were shut down. I was in total stage of fear when I saw that thing. I didn't smell anything. Nothing. I wanted to get out of there. I didn't want to be around that thing.
I imagine they could probably break your neck, right? Would they just thrash you? They could kill you quickly, correct?
What's that now?
The Bigfoot, if they want to kill you, they can kill you quickly, right?
I don't think there would be anything that you could do. One of my friends that had seen one too up here, this guy, he lives about 10 miles from me up here, up the creek, and he saw one here, but it was a different one that I saw. But somebody said something one time, do you shoot one like that? And he said, I think I got a gun that big that'll kill one. It's like that, I wouldn't even try. I had that 44 Magnum there. I wouldn't shoot one with a 300 Magnum. I wouldn't shoot one with a 458 Winchester. I'd just get away from it.
No. Copy that.
I was standing 50 feet from one with a 7 Magnum, and I didn't even think about shooting it.
You didn't tell me that, Jim.
Yeah, I did. I told you that story. I was up on the edge of Lassen Park, and me and a buddy was up there, and And my partner, he actually saw it first, and then it was walking away from him and walked right by me, and it didn't even see me. I was standing up on top of a rock cropping. It was in a shadow, and it walked right by me and didn't even look.
Well, how did that make you feel?
Scared to death, no doubt.
I tell you what, when I saw that one, I went into total terror and shock. It got me. That's all I can say.
That's what happened to me. I just froze for I don't know how long, but I didn't. I didn't even. I don't think I was even breathing. And then after it was gone and I couldn't hear it anymore, it didn't take me long. It was probably a quarter of a mile away from the truck, and it didn't take me long to cover that quarter of a mile.
Do you remember the guy on here? His name was Jerry. He lived up there. He had an uncle that he went hunting all winter long up there, almost in Canada. And they went up there at one time, and his uncle went out scouting around while he was unloading the car. And his uncle came back and said, "Let's load up," and he wouldn't tell him why. He said, "We're leaving." You remember that?
I do remember that. That was one of our Bigfoot roundtables we was having that night.
Yeah, that was, I don't know how I didn't remember yours, but now I do. But anyway, he saw that Bigfoot, and years he would not tell his nephew what he saw or what happened. He just left. And he said, we go up there all the time. And finally asked him, I said, why don't we go hunting anymore? And he said, I saw a Bigfoot, and I'm never going back. That's it.
Yeah, I never went back to that place. I hunted it all the time, and I never went back after that incident.
Comment, please.
You don't want to see those things. I mean, people always... There's a guy up here this last couple of years ago, I guess it was, and we were hunting up there, and this guy came down on a quad. And he was there, and he had a Ruger... No, it was not Ruger #1. Thompson Contender, 300 Winchester Magnum single shot rifle there, and all of this. And he told me that, and he'd been up on right up there before my friend Troy saw this Bigfoot. And anyway, he was right up there on the top of the mountain, up there looking down on Trail Canyon. There's a big meadow down there. And when he was going to, I said, do you see any Bigfoot up there? And he kind of laughed. He said, if I did, I'd shoot one, like that. I said, okay. But he said, I did see something unusual up there. He said, do you have any bear here that are brown, real kind of light brown? He said, I saw, it had to be a bear. It was walking on his hind legs down there, and then all of a sudden it disappeared in that creek. I said, well, what you're telling me is what Troy Shipley saw. He said, what's that? And I said, he saw a Bigfoot up there. He said, it came out of a cave. Rocks went down there, and there was 5 of them. He was a police officer at that time. Anyway, he bought a place just up the creek from here. Anyway, he saw this with the 5 other guys, or 4 other guys, and him saw this Bigfoot up there. And that guy looked at me, and he said, I'm going to be alone after tomorrow. And he just changed, totally changed. Marilyn, she said, did you see guy change when you told him what you thought he might have seen? And I said, yeah. He wasn't going to go back up there anymore. And he didn't want to stay up there by himself. His friend was going to leave him. They were going to go back home in a day or two. And I never did see him anymore. I don't know whether he took off or what he did, but he could have seen that Bigfoot. That may have been what he saw. There are bear up here, but they don't usually walk on their hind legs very much, N7IU.
KJ7VO. Yeah, when they do walk on their hind legs, they're just as smooth as can be. It looks almost like they're floating.
Yeah. Well, that Bigfoot looks like it's floating, doesn't it?
That's what I said. It just it moved. Like I said it when I explained it. I said it glided.
It's like it glides. It doesn't. It's so smooth when it walks. It's like that one. Remember the guy that took the video of that Bigfoot, that female Bigfoot that just went across there like it's walking on smooth ground? That's the way they walk.
Yeah, that's Roger Patterson.
Yep, Patterson.
Gimlin. As a matter of fact, I talked to Bob Gimlin. Where he saw that one and where I saw one was probably about 100 miles apart.
Oh, okay.
Comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very good and highly interesting. What I find, just one comment is that I've never heard about any human being being attacked by one. So maybe they kind of get along, right? So maybe that's the spiritual aspect of it. So I worked, I told you, right, with the Oregon Department of Transportation for a year and a half, and I never even thought about where I was. I was alone. All along the Cascades, Mount Hood, late at night, all of that, Jefferson, all the peaks, and Mount Buxton, and never, smelled anything, never saw anything, but I'll bet they were looking at me, right? So, kind of interesting, but they, I guess, generally they detect if you're overly aggressive. But if you're not, they kind of leave you alone. This is getting crossing over to the religious side. I'm a fairly religious man there. So my hope is that they can detect that you're not the adversary. You're just an observer. Make sense? So then you don't get you can camp out at night. They're not going to come there and do the Himalayan horrible, kill you stuff, right? N6AF.
N7IU. Well, up in Alaska, there's and I don't know if you've heard about this, Jim. There's a story about an Inuit up there that he had 2 or 3 wives, and one of them came into the house and gave into his cabin and took his wife and ate her.
Yeah, I've heard several stories about that.
Never heard that one. That's pretty spooky.
And out here at the hot well, my son and I went down to the little bar down in Fish Lake Valley that night, and it stayed open all night. At that time, this was about midnight. We got down there, and Jimmy says, let's go over there to the bar and see if anybody's ever seen anything weird down at the hot tub. And one of the things that Norm Williams said, he said, well, there was a guy down there that was murdered and mauled and just chewed all up. And we don't know what happened to him, but he was right down there. He was there at the hot wells where it happened. And he said, they said some wild animal or something killed him, but somebody might have murdered him and picked a dog on him or something, But anyway, that was where the Bigfoot hangout was. It was down in that area, and I think they are up there in this Ice House Canyon. That's what the old Indian here, the old chief, that told me that they had always been there and they lived in Ice House Canyon. He said, if you see one, do not do anything. Just leave. Wherever you see it, leave. Because it doesn't want you to be there when you see it.
Correct. Right. In my case, I kind of detected a couple of times late at night, beautiful, the moonrise and the clouds down below and all that. I was alone, but I kind of could tell. I could kind of tell there was something around, but I just called out like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. And then I felt like they went away. So that's all. What I've heard is they walk, along the ridge tops, and they kind of move their loppy, long arms back and forth and kind of howl a little bit. And they kind of smell, but, nothing personal, right? That's, different beings, right? And so when I was up there, I came out of that one microwave radio shelter, and I could smell something. Kind of smelled like slightly like a dead animal. You know what I'm talking about? Like a dead cat, but at a distance. And I just went like, ooh, it's okay. How are you? And it was like they went away. So I'm not saying that you push them away, but you tell them that I'm not the adversary. And they just leave. That's my experience, and that's the truth.
I'll leave here, Jim. I'm going to go to bed. I'm super tired after a week taking care of Buddy Dog at night. So, KJ7EP.
Well, Wayne, you take care. You're in my prayers always. You know that. And so is that hay.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, Wayne. Good to hear you again, KJ7VO.
Yep, good night, Wayne. I'm going to do the same. I'll listen out for a while. KT0DD. my friend. And I think I can do the same. Head upstairs and hit the sack. KW7EET, I'll be clear.
See you later there. And Jim, thank you for coming by. Thank you for reminding me of that story.
Yeah, we've had that conversation a bunch of times. We always get a lot of interest when it starts, too, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's, I don't ever want to see one again, do you?
Not, well, maybe if I'm watching it for, 3 miles away through my spotting scope, but that's about it.
I don't even know, I don't, the way I felt, I don't even want to do that, to tell you the truth. I don't, and here I am living within 7 miles of where I saw the thing, and then, about 12 or 13 miles from where Troy saw that one up there. But and Troy's brother had experienced one someplace. He did not see it. He just smelled it, and he heard it, and throwing rocks and stuff at him, and sticks. But anyway, and they do that, I guess. But anyway, I don't have any interest in ever seeing one again. I think I know where I could go find one, but who wants to find one?
No, all of these people that are out looking for it, you can tell they've never found one.
I don't think it's going to bother you.
Yeah, it was, I can't explain the type of terror, I guess, is the best way to describe it, that I felt. And how long it lasted. It lasted for weeks and weeks.
Well, I have never got rid of it. I mean, when I think about it, I have this terrible feeling. My son, he saw me kill those wild hogs with a .22 pistol. I mean, I killed lions with a .22 pistol. I killed wild hogs with a .22 pistol, bear, everything with a .22 pistol. That's my big game gun, And I did a shooting little expedition to that one the other day a little bit. But all that old K model Smith & Wesson .22 long rifle, is what I shot in it. But and with the pretty hot bullets. But anyway, that's what I went lion hunting with, bear hunting, and wild hog hunting and everything else. You heard me talk about killing that wild hog, those 3 wild hogs, and that one I couldn't hardly get him down because I waited too long to stab him. Well, anyway, my son, he said, I've seen you dodging wild hogs, shooting things, never missing. And he said, what are you afraid of? He said, what's wrong with you, Dad? And I said, I can't explain it, but I don't want to be around here. I don't want to see it. I don't want to follow it. He wanted to go back and look for tracks, and I said, no way. I said, I'm not going.
Yep.
Period. I felt like an ant in a giant step,
Yeah. What you're afraid of is something that's not even supposed to be there.
Yeah. And if it is a Nephilim, it is somewhat supernatural, and David killed one, and they were 5 of them all together, and they just had a hard time killing them. And David killed that one Goliath with a stone, but that one was divinely guided, and I didn't have a divinely guided 44 bullet by gun.
No. Have you heard of a guy named Jeff Meldrum? He's a professor of anthropology at Idaho State University.
I've seen a lot of stuff on there about them, and I've seen, since I started talking, people listen to us do this, and then I did do a report a couple of times. You ever do a report?
I did.
Okay. So that goes around. You can still look mine up on YouTube, or not YouTube, but whatever you call it, Google.
Google, yeah.
Yeah, just Google it. Anyway, but my son's went away. I don't know what. The guy that had his website up, he died, and they took the website down. So my son's explanation of what he saw is not there anymore, but it was basically what I saw. But what about this guy, the anthropologist?
Well, he's the one that came up with the theory of the mid-tarsal break. He's an anthropologist with specialty in podiatry, anthropology and podiatry, and he came up with the mid-tarsal break, and he studied them, and he says it's his opinion that they are just a different form of humans, or a humanoid that we've had throughout history. We've had humans, different species of humans. You know, we're Homo sapiens sapien, and we've had several different forms of humans at the same time living on this planet as recent as 10,000 years ago. And it's his opinion that it's just one of those species. But that's, you know, he has a lot of information, and I kind of go along with him, but I don't know either. Nobody has one, so nobody really knows.
Yeah, they do have DNA. They are part humanoid. From the DNA they have, the American Indian humanoid. But they are something else that is not identifiable.
Well, you know that a chimpanzee has 99.7% of Homo sapiens sapien DNA, human DNA.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this, if it is what is in Genesis, the 6th chapter, it is half angel, half supernatural, and mankind. And they were on this earth before the flood and after the flood. And Goliath and that bunch, Og and all of them in the Bible, those were all Nephilim. And they were all, you know, monsters and powerful and hard to kill. You know, so anyway, Marilyn's coming in here. She's looking at me, smiling at me. She probably wants to know what in the world I'm doing here this long tonight.
Yeah, the Nephilim is you know, a widely accepted theory of it. I don't know. You know, the Nephilim in the time of David, of course, he was Goliath. He was hanging out with the Philistines, you know. So they actually interacted with people and lived with people and Sasquatches. There's no evidence of that. So I don't know. Like I said, nobody's got one for sure. Everybody just got a theory, and I think it may be its own species, but who knows?
Well, I think it's got some type of telepathic abilities because I experienced that.
I know 100% that it has telepathic experience. Or what does the lions have? Infrasound. And lions, they know lions use that, and I definitely think the Sasquatch has that, and I think that's how come it terrifies you so when you're around it.
Oh, well, you know, that woman, whatever her name was, Catherine, that was on Monster Quest, she talked to me a whole bunch of times, and her husband talked to me. Her husband had seen one. But he told me, I said, I want to know why I was so afraid, because I'm not afraid of anything in the woods. You know, I said, I've killed all these animals and stuff, and I'm not afraid of them, but I was terrified of it. And he said, they will pick out the alpha person, and they will zap you, and you become putty in their hands. You are just terrified. And they will usually pick one person, the strongest person in the group, and zap them, and I got zapped. You know, that's what happened to me. I got zapped. I guess you got a little zapped, too.
Well, you know, I don't think it knew I was there. It knew my buddy was there, and we were probably, we started up this hillside together, a pretty steep hill. It was right at the edge of Last National Park, and so very big rocks, a lot of lava rock, and it was just at the edge of the timberline, you know, for elevation, about 9,000 feet, I guess, maybe 10, somewhere in there. And he's the one that saw it first. When we first got out of the truck, we heard somebody talking, but we couldn't make out what they were saying. It was just like a chatter that was, we thought it was somebody up there. And then when we went up, started up the hill, we got, like I said, about a quarter of a mile up the hill away from the truck, and then it roared. And I didn't know what that was, and then it started running towards me. I was to the left-hand side of my buddy, and it started running towards me from my facing it, so it was from my left to right. And it went. Well, I wasn't running; it was just gliding, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And it slowed down when it got close to me, but it never looked my way, and it just kept moving. So I'm not sure it saw me, but it sure terrified me.
Well, see, the thing didn't look at me. I felt like at that time, Jim, if it had looked at me, I would have died. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, I was just frozen, petrified, I guess is a good terminology for it. I just didn't move. I don't think I was even breathing. I'm not sure my heart was beating.
Yeah, it was. I was terrified. I was zapped with it, and as they say, I experienced that. My son wasn't bothered by it at all. He saw it, but he didn't see it as long as I did. I saw it walking for a long way, but I thought it was a man until it walked across the road. And when it walked across the road, I could describe it. I can still see the alkali dust coming off of its hair. I can still see it swinging its arms. And his face was turned slightly away from me, and it went out there and just disappeared into the sagebrush. He just went off, and I'm glad I didn't see him anymore. I don't know whether he got down and started crawling or what happened to him, but we didn't see him anymore after he went out in the sagebrush, and I was glad. He probably laid down on the ground or something, but I sure wasn't about to go out there. And I said, let's go back there. He grabbed the spotlight, and I slapped his hand down. I said, leave that thing alone. Just leave it alone. And I took off. I was in the company truck at that time. Usually I was in my Jeep, but I had always had that 44 Magnum in the seat and that spotlight. And boy, I didn't want to be around there at all. I didn't want to go back. And I had a hard time going back there because we would go down and take a bath in that hot well, and I just didn't want to be there at nighttime anymore.
Yeah, the place I was at is Brokoff Meadows, and it's on the west side of Lassen Park. You can look it up on the map, and I used to love to go up there, but I never had a desire to go back, and I never did. I gave that place at least a 20-mile berth, probably. According to some of the experts like Meldrum, he said that those things will range 1,000 miles easy. So, I guess it didn't really matter. But to me, I didn't want to go back to that spot.
Yeah, I didn't. I never really want to go looking for one. I think I know where they are because Hank told me where he told me where they lived. And he said they were always there, and he said just leave them alone. And I talked to some of the other Indians up here, and they know about them. Many of them have never experienced it, but they know it, and they know it to be a fact, and they just stay away from them. They don't know where they are at all. They seem to be always armed, but they just don't want to. They don't want to go where they are or where they think they are.
Well, I'm with them.
Me too. Anybody, my son wanted to go looking for one. I said, you just go right ahead. I can tell you how to get there. I said, you probably won't come back.
Yeah, that one guy that was from, I think he was from Spokane or Oregon. He was from Oregon. We talked just a minute ago. He said he does some things that bother you. Well, and if you start looking at all the disappearances in the woods, in national parks and stuff where people just vanish, and in Alaska especially, and of course Alaska's pretty rugged country, so a lot can happen, but just Crater Lake in Oregon, there's like 10 people in the last 20 years that have just mysteriously disappeared. Same in Yosemite. There's some interesting stories here in Utah up in the Uintas where people have just were a couple hundred yards away from camp or whatever and just disappeared, and nobody's ever found them again.
Now, you were a police officer up there. How long? You worked with the sheriff or police office, one or the other, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I worked for both. I was a sheriff for a while, then I took a job for the city. But yeah, I was a cop here for 30 years.
Okay, so you probably heard stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, supposedly over there in Bishop now, someplace over here, 3 corners or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. A Bigfoot killed several people in there, and they hushed it all up. And some of the Forest Service and everything, they just don't want people in there. They don't let them go in there, or try to discourage them from going into that area. 3 Points, I think, is what the name of it was. But anyway, did you ever hear anything about that?
Didn't hear anything about that, but I've heard other stories about Forest Service people finding people that has been mangled and not making public statements with it. Yeah, that's what happened here with that guy. And I know my next door neighbor's the sheriff now, but they shredded. We had such a crooked situation here that they shredded all the evidence from every case from 1903 to 2023 or 2022. And so there's probably no evidence of it, anything left in there at all.
I don't know what all they done wrong, but they must have done something wrong.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people reporting them and people coming out, you know, like people from the feds coming out and talking to them and saying, you didn't see that. I've heard stories of that, you know, bona fide stories.
Yeah, well, I don't want to see one anymore. That was, how many years ago? 1986 or somewhere around there, 1985 or 86, somewhere around there. And I was still working for Ace Hydraulic that time. I was driving their truck, because I was having mine painted or something. So I drove their truck up here, doing all the services for the farms and the mines and everything back then at that time. And we saw that. My son was with me, and we saw that thing going back after we'd been out there on hot well. But then I went out there with the other boy, and that barrel went flying through the air, and that was enough for me, boy. I just didn't want to go out there anymore. My wife won't go out there after dark. She loves to go out there because there's a pond out there with fish in it and everything, and it's kind of made into a park now, and people go out there a lot now. You know, a lot of people come here because they advertise it all over. Here's a free place to go, you know, and so they end up like a city out there. And nobody has been killed lately, as far as I know, or anything. There's dogs disappeared and different things, you know, animals disappear. N7IU.
KJ7VO.
Well, I'm sure glad you came in tonight, Jim. How long has it been, a year?
Yeah, about a year probably. I just was doing some work on remodeling my basement and had the shack tore apart for a while, and just got it back together the last couple of weeks.